The sound of fists hitting metal echoed through the narrow hallway. "Stop! Stop before he dies!" someone screamed, but no one listened. The guards stood outside the cell like shadows, cold and silent, as the chaos raged inside. 3 inmates surrounded a man curled on the floor, his orange jumpsuit torn, his face swollen beyond recognition. Blood mixed with the puddle of water on the cracked concrete floor. That man's name was Eric Malone, a 27-year-old who came to Rikers Island thinking he could survive anything. But Rikers doesn't just hold you, it breaks you. Eric tried to crawl away, but his arm hung loose, broken. "Please, I didn't snitch," he begged, his voice weak and desperate. The biggest of the 3 attackers, a tattooed man called Diesel, raised his boot and stomped hard. Eric's scream echoed through the block, and then silence. The cell door suddenly burst open. "Break it up! Get back!" shouted a correctional officer. But by the time they pulled Diesel and his crew off, Eric wasn't moving. His eyes were open, staring blankly at the ceiling. The officer called for medical backup, but everyone inside the cell block already knew. Eric Malone had become another name on Rikers Island's long list of broken souls. And that night, as the sirens blared and the lights flickered, one question whispered through the darkness. Who really killed Eric Malone? The inmates or the prison itself? Just a few months earlier, Eric was standing on a busy Bronx street, holding a brown paper bag with his mother's groceries inside. Life wasn't perfect, but it was simple. He worked at a car wash, trying to stay out of trouble, but trouble had a way of finding him. That day, his cousin Trey pulled up in a black Dodge Charger, music blasting. "Yo, E, need a quick ride?" Trey shouted. Eric hesitated. Trey was always into shady stuff, but family was family, minutes late. Eric found himself sitting in the passenger seat while Trey met with a stranger in an alley. The deal went bad. Sirens wailed. Police cars surrounded them. Trey ran. Eric didn't. He was arrested on the spot, charged with armed robbery because the gun used in the deal was found under his seat. Eric swore he was innocent. "I didn't even know what was happening," he told the judge, but his cousin disappeared and no one came to testify for him. He got 5 years at Rikers Island. From the moment he stepped inside, Eric felt the air change, thick with fear, sweat, and anger. The guards barked orders. Inmates sized him up like he was fresh meat. "Welcome to hell, rookie," someone whispered. The first week, he learned the rules fast. Don't look anyone in the eye too long. Don't take food that's offered. And most importantly, don't talk to the guards. But Eric made one mistake. When a fight broke out near the cafeteria, he told a guard he saw who started it. The next day, his name was written on the bathroom wall. Snitch. From that moment, Eric wasn't safe. The whispers followed him. His meals were tampered with. His bunk was trashed. He barely slept. One night, Diesel and his crew approached him. "You like talking, huh?" Diesel said, cracking his knuckles. Eric backed away, his heart racing. He knew what was coming, and there was no one to stop it. Then, the sound of the cell door slamming shut sealed his fate. That was the night the prison broke Eric Malone. But Rikers Island had secrets, and what happened next would shake the entire facility to its core. The morning after Eric's death, Rikers Island was quieter than usual. The air felt heavier, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Word spread fast. Another inmate dead. But this one was different. Some said he was killed because he snitched. Others whispered that the guards let it happen on purpose. Officer Daniels, a tired man with 20 years on the job, stood outside Eric's cell staring at the blood-stained floor. "This place eats people alive," he muttered under his breath. He had seen fights, stabbings, even riots, but lately something felt different. More cruel, more hopeless. A group of inmates huddled near the end of the hallway. "You heard what Diesel said?" one of them whispered. "He said the guard told him to teach the snitch a lesson." Another inmate shook his head nervously. "Man, don't repeat that. You'll end up next." By lunchtime, the tension was thick. Diesel sat at a corner table in the cafeteria, chewing slowly, smirking like nothing happened. The other inmates avoided eye contact. He was untouchable, everyone thought. But behind that smirk, even Diesel felt the chill. He had heard that investigators were coming from downtown Manhattan. Someone from the outside was going to dig into Eric's death. Later that day, 2 detectives entered the prison, Detective Maria Sanchez and her partner, Frank Doyle. They were there to investigate what the warden called an unfortunate inmate altercation. But Maria didn't buy it. She had seen enough cover-ups in her career to know when something didn't add up. "Where's the security footage from cell block C?" she asked. The guard at the desk shifted uncomfortably. "Camera malfunctioned that night," he replied. Maria's eyes narrowed. "Malfunctioned? Convenient." As they walked through the corridors, Doyle whispered, "This place gives me the creeps." Maria nodded. "You can feel it. It's like the building itself hides something." Meanwhile, in another part of the prison, a young inmate named Malik watched everything quietly. Malik had been Eric's cell neighbor. He had seen the attack, every brutal second of it, but fear kept him silent. That night, as he lay on his bunk, he couldn't stop hearing Eric's last words echo in his head. "Please, I didn't snitch." Malik knew the truth. Eric hadn't told on anyone. The guard had framed him after a fight Eric tried to stop. But in Rikers, truth didn't matter. Power did. The next morning, Malik woke to the sound of boots stomping down the hall. "Cell check," a guard shouted. The door slammed open, and 2 officers stormed in. They tore his mattress apart and dumped his belongings on the floor. "What's this?" one officer said, holding up a folded piece of paper. Malik froze. He had written down everything he saw that night. Names, times, and what the guards did. "It's just notes," Malik said quickly. But the guard smiled coldly. "Notes? About what?" Before Malik could answer, the guard crumpled the paper and stuffed it in his pocket. "You better watch what you write, kid. Rikers doesn't like talkers." When they left, Malik sat on his bunk trembling. He knew they had found out. And now, he was marked. That night, the power flickered. The lights went out across the entire cell block. The inmates started banging on their doors, shouting and laughing. Chaos erupted in the dark. Malik pressed his ear to the door. He could hear footsteps, slow, heavy ones, coming closer to his cell. Someone whispered through the bars, "You should have kept quiet." Before he could react, the sound of keys turning echoed outside his door. The lock clicked. The door began to open. And then, the lights came back on. Malik blinked against the sudden brightness. Standing in the doorway were 2 guards, one of them the same man who had taken his note earlier. The other was Diesel, still wearing that same cold smirk. "Morning, Malik," the guard said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "We heard you like writing stories. Thought we'd help you make it more real." Before Malik could move, Diesel stepped inside and slammed him against the wall. The other inmates shouted from their cells, pounding the metal doors, but no one dared to interfere. Malik struggled to breathe as Diesel's hand pressed against his throat. "I didn't say anything," Malik gasped. "I swear." "Don't lie to me," Diesel hissed. "You think I don't know? That paper had my name on it." The guard watched, arms crossed, not lifting a finger. He even smiled as Diesel tightened his grip. Malik's vision started to fade, the room spinning. Then, from down the hall, a voice shouted, "Officers! What's going on here?" Detective Maria Sanchez appeared, walking toward them with her badge raised. The guards froze. Diesel let go and stepped back. "Just discipline, ma'am," the guard said quickly. "Inmate was being difficult." Maria's eyes flicked between Malik's bruised neck and Diesel's clenched fists. "Yeah?" she said quietly. "Looks like you're the one being difficult." She ordered the guard to step aside and turned to Malik. "You okay?" she asked. Malik nodded weakly, afraid to speak. "I need to talk to you," she whispered, before signaling for the officers to escort Diesel out. When they were gone, Maria crouched beside Malik's bunk. "I know you saw what happened to Eric Malone," she said. Malik's eyes widened, but he stayed silent. "Look, I get it," Maria continued. "This place is dangerous, but if you don't tell the truth, they'll keep doing this to people." Malik hesitated, then leaned closer. "It wasn't just Diesel," he whispered. "The guards. They told him to do it." Maria's heart sank. "Which guards?" she asked. Before he could answer, a loud alarm blared through the prison. Red lights flashed across the corridor. "All units, riot in cell block D," a voice shouted over the intercom. Maria stood up fast. "Stay here," she told Malik, then ran toward the noise. But Malik knew better. Stay here never meant safe. Minutes later, chaos exploded across Rikers. Smoke filled the air as inmates flipped towels and fought with guards. It was the biggest riot the prison had seen in years. Maria and her partner, Frank, ducked behind a pillar as officers clashed with prisoners swinging makeshift weapons. "This isn't random," Maria yelled over the noise. "Someone started this to cover something up." Meanwhile, Maliki used the confusion to his advantage. He slipped out of his cell, clutching a small piece of metal he had hidden under his mattress. His only thought was to find Maria again, to tell her everything before they got to him first. He ran through the smoke-filled corridor, heart pounding, dodging fights and fallen debris. But when he reached the main stairwell, he froze. At the bottom of the stairs stood Diesel, blood on his shirt, eyes blazing with fury. "Well, look who finally came out to play," Diesel said, cracking his knuckles. "You should have stayed quiet, Malik." Malik took a shaky step back. Behind Diesel, flames flickered from an overturned trash can. The riot was spreading. "I'm not afraid of you anymore," Malik said, his voice trembling. Diesel grinned. "You will be." Then Diesel charged up the stairs toward him, and all the lights went out again. For a few seconds, there was nothing but darkness, thick, choking, endless. Malik's heart hammered in his chest as he backed away, his palms slick with sweat. Somewhere below, Diesel's heavy boots pounded against the metal steps, growing louder with every step. Then came the sound of something scraping, a sharp, metallic hiss, followed by Diesel's deep voice, low and cruel. "You can run, kid, but there's nowhere to hide in Rikers." Malik's hands fumbled through the darkness until his fingers brushed against the cold bars of another cell. He ducked inside, crouching low, trying not to breathe too loud. His ears rang with the chaos outside, alarms blaring, inmates shouting, guards yelling orders that no one obeyed. Suddenly, a beam of flashlight cut through the blackness. Diesel's voice echoed closer. "Come on out, little rat." Malik clenched his jaw, gripping the piece of metal tighter. His mind screamed for him to move, but his body was frozen. Then, a crash. The cell door beside him burst open. Diesel lunged forward, the flashlight flickering across his face. Malik swung the piece of metal wildly, hitting Diesel's arm. Diesel roared in pain and stumbled back. Malik ran. He sprinted down the corridor, weaving through overturned chairs and broken glass. Smoke stung his eyes as sprinklers began to rain down from the ceiling. The smell of burning rubber filled the air. At the end of the hallway, 2 guards blocked the exit. "Stop!" one shouted. Malik froze, until he saw their faces. They were the same guards from earlier, the ones who'd framed Eric. "Looks like we caught ourselves another hero," one of them sneered. "Detective Sanchez won't help you now." Malik turned to run the other way, but Diesel was already behind him, his massive frame blocking the path. "You made me bleed, kid," he growled. "Now I'm gonna make you scream." The guards stepped aside, letting Diesel move closer. Malik's back hit the wall. The corridor was filled with orange light from the fires burning nearby. Diesel lifted a broken broom handle like a club. And then, a gunshot. Everyone froze. Diesel dropped the handle. Smoke curled from the end of Detective Maria Sanchez's pistol as she stepped into view. "Back away," she ordered, her voice sharp and steady. Diesel glared at her, but didn't move. The guards exchanged nervous looks. "He's lying, Detective," one of them said. "That inmate's dangerous." Maria's eyes darted between Malik and the guards. "Funny," she said. "He's the only one here without blood on his hands." She aimed her gun squarely at Diesel. "Get down!" For a tense moment, no one moved. Then Diesel lunged. Maria fired again, a warning shot this time, and the sound echoed down the hallway. Diesel stopped, hands raised. The guards cursed under their breath and slowly backed away. "Malik," Maria said softly, "come with me. You're safe now." Malik hesitated, eyes wide with disbelief. "Safe? Nobody's safe in here," Maria sighed. "You're right," she said, "but we can make this end." She led him through a side door that opened into a small, dimly lit control room. Monitors flickered on the walls, showing different parts of the prison. Maria rushed to the console and started typing commands. "If the system still works, I can download the camera feeds from last week, the night Eric died." Malik stared at the screens nervously. "I thought the cameras didn't work," Maria frowned. "That's what they told me." Then one of the screens flickered to life, showing a recording from the night of the attack. There was Eric in his cell, and there were the guards, unlocking the door just before Diesel and his men went in. "Oh my God," Maria whispered. They let it happen. Before she could save the file, the door behind them burst open. Warden Pierce stepped in, flanked by armed officers. His face was calm, almost smiling. "Detective Sanchez," he said coolly, "I'm afraid your investigation ends here." Maria froze. "You knew," she said. "You knew they killed him." The warden tilted his head slightly. "Sometimes, detective, the prison needs to remind people who's really in charge." He nodded once, and one of the officers raised his weapon. Malik's breath caught in his throat. Then, the power surged. The lights exploded in a shower of sparks, plunging the room into darkness once more. And this time, the screams that followed came from everyone.